Right? You know George Washington, of course. You know
Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin. You know all of them.
John Adams.
By the way, Ben Franklin, when he died,
Uh-huh.
oh, I should save this till later, but when he died, he had one of the largest gatherings of people ever at his funeral.
Oh my, I can imagine.
He was such a popular guy. But anyways,
Yeah.
so Governor Morris was a founding father. He was considered a statesman, founding father of the United States. He's a native of New York City, represented Pennsylvania in the Constitutional Convention of 1787, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's some interesting stuff, okay? Once Governor Morris was offered a bet of one dinner if he would approach George Washington, slap him on the back, and give him a friendly greeting. Apparently, this was something you didn't do. Apparently, George Washington was much respected.
Uh-huh.
So he, meaning Governor Morris, wanted to show people how close he was to the chief, meaning George Washington.
Yeah.
So Morris took on the bet. He later admitted that after seeing the cold stare of George Washington, after slapping him on the back,
Yeah.
he said, I wouldn't do it again for 1,000 dinners. It gives you some idea of George Washington, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You slap him on the back and he gives you that stare.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
That's like growling at a lion or something.
I bet he didn't enjoy his dinner. I mean, I'll bet you the dinner was in front
That's
of
the
him.
feeling
and
I
he
get
just
from...
pushed it away, you know. I bet you.
That's the feeling I get from Dick Cheney, by the way.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't slap Dick Cheney on the back.
No.
No, he looks like a tough guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
even
his wife was
Mrs.
nice.
She was nice, but she...
Yeah.
Yeah, remember when she was on, I said to her, I think all elected officials should have to pass a constitution test. They should,
Yes.
just like a doctor has to pass a test, a lawyer. If you're elected into office, you should have to pass a test on the Constitution. And she said, what? She said, I think so should talk show hosts. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
ting, right back at me. Ting. Right?
Zinged, yeah.
All right.
She's tough.
So there you go. Yeah.
Wow. Governor Morris. Isn't that something?
George Washington was born on what date?
I don't know. July 1st, 17?
No. February 22nd.
Oh, February 20. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's not
Okay.
true, though. That's not true. If you ask George Washington when he was born, he would say February 11th, 1732.
Really?
So why do we say February 22nd when he said February 11th?
Wasn't that President's Day? I mean, didn't they link all the wasn't he used to be February 11th?
No.
And then there was
No,
Lincoln,
no.
and then they put everybody
February 12th
together?
was Lincoln.
Yeah.
February 22nd was Washington.
Oh, okay.
And February 22nd is the recognized birthday of President George Washington.
Okay.
Okay. But if you asked him, if you went back in a time machine, you said, when were you born? He would say February 11th. And here's why.
Okay.
He was born in 1732.
Okay.
In 1751, how old would he have been by then? 32, 42, 50, almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
Great Britain changed from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar.
Really?
An act of parliament added 11 days to make the adjustment complete, and in 1752, Washington celebrated his birthday on February 22nd.
Wow.
Isn't it
Isn't
crazy?
that something?
So
yeah.
Actual birthday was the 11th.
Yeah.
But
Well, was his name really George Washington, or did he change his name? I heard rumors that he
I don't
had
have that.
a different name.
I did look through all of these this morning.
Yeah.
Of the founding fathers who became president, only George Washington did not go to college.
Oh.
John Adams graduated from Harvard. James Madison graduated from Princeton. Thomas Jefferson went to the College of William and Mary.
Oh, okay.
John Adams was the first president to live in the White House. However, he was only there for 4 months after losing the election to Thomas Jefferson in 1800.
Oh, okay.
George Washington gave the shortest inauguration speech. It was 133 words long. William Henry Harrison gave the longest, 8,443 words, and he died a month later.
Oh, gee.
He wasn't president very long.
No. He had pneumonia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
I
say
think so.
because of that speech. He stood out in the rain giving
Yeah.
a long speech.
That's right.
Thomas Jefferson has been described as an agriculturist, an anthropologist, an architect, an astronomer, a bibliophile, a botanist, a classicist, a diplomat, an educator, an ethnologist, a farmer, a geographer, a gourmet, a horseman, a horticulturist, an inventor, a lawyer, a lexicographer, a linguist, a mathematician, meteorologist, musician, naturalist, numismatist.
A stamp guy.
Thank you. A paleontologist, a philosopher, philosopher. I'll get through these. Political philosopher, scientist, statesman, violinist, and writer.
Wow.
Wow, he had a big business card. And he was fluent in Greek, Latin, French, Spanish, Italian, and German.
He was amazing.
Wow.
He was like a sponge. He just soaked everything up. He still had time for fun, though.
Let's see. Upon graduating from Harvard, John Adams became a grammar school teacher. And he said, "My little school, like the great world, is made up of kings, politicians, divines, fops, buffoons, fiddlers, fools, coxcombs, sycophants, chimney sweeps, and every other character I see in the world."
I got to look up coxcombs and sycophants.
Yeah, really. He said, "I would rather sit in school and consider which of my pupils will turn out to be a hero, and which a rake, which a philosopher, and which a parasite, than to have an income of £1,000 a year."
Oh, wow.
Which I guess was a lot back then.
It probably was, yeah.
Washington Irving described James Madison as a withered little Applejohn.
Oh, I don't know what Applejohn is, but I'll look
And
that
his
up
wife
too.
Wally. Remember Wally? His wife Dolly.
Yeah.
His wife Wally.
Well,
Do you remember we had this? We had an author who wrote a
Yeah.
whole book about Dolly Madison. And I'm sorry, about James Madison, and Dolly Madison played a big role, of course.
yeah, she did.
Washington Irving described her as a fine, portly, buxom dame. She's a fine, portly, buxom dame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those pictures we saw of her.
Yeah,
was
she looked
hot.
like she was a hottie.
Yeah.
Not so Mrs. Lincoln, but yes, Mrs. Madison definitely.
Yeah, but she served as first lady before her husband was in the White House, so that was pretty cool.
The Marquis de Lafayette thought so much of George Washington that he named his son George Washington Lafayette.
Oh my gosh.
Thomas Jefferson died broke.
Really?
He was smart, but he wasn't thrifty, apparently. Before his death, Jefferson was able to alleviate part of his financial problems by accepting $25,000 for his books from Congress, which must have been a huge sum back in those days.
Huge.
Those books were used to begin the Library of Congress. The first books in the Library of Congress were Thomas Jefferson's. Friends of Thomas Jefferson even tried to organize a lottery to sell part of his land to help pay off his debt, but they weren't able to get enough money for it.
Oh gosh.
Listen to this. When Jefferson died, he left his gold-mounted walking staff of animal horn as a token of cordial and affectionate friendship to James Madison. Jefferson's epitaph reads, ready? "Here is buried Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and the father of the University of Virginia, period." What's missing? It mentions nothing about him being the president.
No, nothing at all.
Doesn't mention that.
Nothing at all. He felt everything else was more important.
John Adams was the only president to be the father of a future president until George W. Bush became president, making George Bush Sr. the second president to have a son also to be president. By the way, how many presidents have we had? Do you know?
44?
44 is exactly right. Barack Obama is the nation's 44th president.
Yep.
But if you really want to know the real truth, we've only had 43.
Okay.
Do you know the reason for that? Grover Cleveland is counted twice.
Oh.
He was our 22nd president and 24th. And because
Okay.
there was a president between his presidencies, we've had 44 presidencies, although really only 43 presidents.
Okay.
So when we play fun with Joe later on, it's all multiple choice. There's only 43 choices.
There you go.
Remember, at the end of this, I'm giving away this big book called The Making of America.
Yeah.
The substance and meaning of the Constitution, including a clause-by-clause explanation by the Founding Fathers.
That is
Right
pretty
now,
awesome.
we're going over some fascinating facts about the Founding Fathers. Here's another one. You probably knew this one. John Adams died on the 4th of July in 1826. He was 90 years old.
Gosh.
He had the longest marriage of any ex-president. He and Abigail were married October 25th, 1764. The marriage lasted 54 years. His wife died before him. She died in 1818.
Gosh.
In terms of entertainment, George Washington enjoyed the following things. There was no TV back then. There was no Kennedy Center's honors.
No.
George Washington enjoyed raffles and lotteries. He enjoyed card playing, fox hunting, duck hunting, fishing, cockfighting,
Yes.
horse racing, boat racing, and dancing. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I'm glad he liked to dance. Dancing is fun.
George Washington was a dancer.
Yeah, that's nice. Dancing is fun.
Although it is common knowledge that George Washington called for the emancipation of his slaves in his last will and testament, he stipulated that it would only take place upon the death of his wife, Martha. However, in Martha's will, she did not free the slaves.
Oh, no. Oh, she was greedy. Not nice.
The original intent was for George Washington to be buried beneath the rotunda floor under the dome of the Capitol. But he died before the rotunda was finished, and in 1828 the crypt was covered up.
Oh, gosh.
I wonder where he's buried, you know?
No, I don't.
President George Washington would bow to guests at presidential receptions to avoid physical contact, and the tradition lasted through the presidency of John Adams.
Gosh.
Washington would rest one hand on a sword and the other holding a hat to avoid the remote possibility of anyone forcing a handshake.
Oh, there you go.
He's a germaphobe.
I think so. He could have worn gloves.
Thomas Jefferson ended the tradition of bowing by shaking hands when greeting people. So it didn't last long.
No.
Thomas Jefferson, at the age of 83 years old, felt that he would not live through the summer of 1826, but he hoped to live through the 4th of July, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Both he and John Adams died on that same day, July 4th, 1826.
Isn't that something?
50 years after.
Wow.
President James Monroe also died on the 4th of July, 5 years after Thomas Jefferson and John Adams.
Gosh.
When George Washington died in 1799, his last words were, "I die hard, but I am not afraid to go. Let me go quietly. I cannot last long. It is well."
Oh, my.
Wow.
Oh, my.
Alexander Hamilton was killed by Aaron Burr, as you know, in a duel in Weehawken, New Jersey on July, I don't know the date, in July of 1804. Hamilton's son, Philip, had died in a duel 3 years earlier at the same location.
Oh, gee. They weren't good shots, were they?
Benjamin Franklin died in 1790 on April 17th. His daughter asked him to change positions on his bed to improve his breathing, and his last words were, "A dying man can do nothing easy." Wow.
Wow. He's written so many great quotes that everybody's quoted.
James Madison was
words.
responsible for proposing the resolution to create the various cabinet positions within the executive branch of our government, and 12 amendments to the Constitution, of which 10 became the Bill of Rights.
Gosh.
James Madison proposed that congressional pay would be determined by the average price of wheat during the previous 6 years of a congressional session. Ah, we should use that today.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Keep that one out. We'll put that on a postcard and send it to all the elected officials.
Isn't that interesting stuff?
Very fascinating
There's some
stuff.
more interesting stuff. And again, in just about 5 minutes or so, we'll give away this big 888-page book, The Making of America, including a clause-by-clause explanation by the founding fathers of the amendments.
That's incredible.
The substance and meaning of the Constitution is the subtitle. There is something written on the back of the original Declaration of Independence, but it is not a secret map or a code. It is a handwritten statement that says Original Declaration of Independence.
Oh.
Nobody knows who wrote it, but it was probably added as a label when the document was rolled up for storage.
Oh, I could understand that.
Once the Declaration of Independence had been written and signed, a printer by the name of John Dunlap was asked to make about 200 copies to be distributed throughout the colonies.
Gosh.
Today, they're called Dunlap broadsides because the broadside was what we would have called a poster. They were large.
Oh.
Today, the Dunlap broadsides are extremely rare and valuable. In 1989, someone discovered a previously unknown Dunlap broadside. It was sold for over $8 million in the year 2000.
Gosh.
There are only 26 known surviving Dunlap broadsides today.
Mm-hmm. Gosh. Take care of our Constitution.
One of the most widely held misconceptions about the Declaration of Independence is that it was signed on July 4th, 1776. In fact, independence was formally declared on July 2nd, 1776. So tomorrow is the date it was declared. John Adams thought that tomorrow's date would be the one that we remember throughout American history. Mm-hmm. But on the 4th, Congress approved the final text of the Declaration, which is why. It wasn't signed until August 2nd, by the way, that year.
Yeah, I knew there was an amount of time there between the passing and the signing.
On December 13th, 1952, the Declaration of Independence, along with the Constitution and Bill of Rights, was formally delivered to the National Archives in Washington, where it has remained since. 1952.
Gosh.
That's
wow.
That's how long it was floating around before it finally
before it found a home. And imagine it was taken care of all that time. That's amazing.
Some of the most famous lines in the Declaration of Independence, credited to Thomas Jefferson, were actually inspired by Virginia's Declaration of Rights, written by George Mason.
Oh.
Mason said, quote, "All men are born equally free and independent." In Jefferson's Declaration of Independence, he said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal."
Gosh.
Mason listed man's natural rights as enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. It sounds familiar, right?
Yes.
Jefferson wrote of man's inalienable rights as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Our founding fathers were so wise. I mean, their words should not be taken lightly ever.
The oldest signer of the Declaration of Independence was Benjamin Franklin, who was born in 1706, was 70 years old at the time of the Declaration.
Gosh.
The only signer of the Declaration of Independence to survive beyond the 50th anniversary was Charles Carroll of Maryland. He died in 1832 at the age of 95.
Oh, my.
The copy of the Declaration of Independence that is at the National Archives is not the draft that was approved by the Continental Congress in July 4th, 1776.
Oh, did not know that.
Instead, it is a formal copy that the Continental Congress hired someone to make for them after the text was approved. Bless you.
Gesundheit.
Listen to this. Here's a cool trivia question. No one who signed the Declaration of Independence was born in the United States of America.
Oh, now that makes sense. Because they all came over from England.
It's a trick question, though.
Oh, it is?
The United States didn't exist until after the Declaration was signed.
Okay,
in other words, they were born here, but were they born in the U.S.? No, they were born in the colonies.
That's right. They were born in the colonies.
All but here's the real answer. All but 8 of the signers were born in the colonies. That would become the U.S.
Now that's a cool fact.
That's a cool thing. How many
of
the signers were born in the United States?
Yeah.
None. Because it wasn't the United States until they signed that thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's the birth of our nation, right?
I love that.
The first public reading of the Declaration of Independence took place on July 8th, 1776, in Philadelphia. A fictional story written in the 1840s suggested that the bell, now known as the Liberty Bell, was rung that day to bring people together. However, historians now doubt that. The steeple that housed the bell was in very bad condition at the time, and the bell was probably unusable.
Gosh.
Let's see, what else do I have here? Some constitutional things. There are some spelling errors in the original Constitution.
Oh.
The word Pennsylvania above the signers' names is spelled with one N.
Oh.
Mistake.
Okay.
The U.S. Constitution has 4,400 words. It is the oldest and shortest written constitution of any major government in the world.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the founding fathers knew we didn't need to be lengthy.
The actual hand that held the pen that wrote the Constitution, not the person who thought it up, but the guy who had good penmanship, was Jacob Shallis. He was the Pennsylvania General Assembly clerk. He got paid $30 for that.
Wow.
$30.
Well, good for
Which
Jacob.
is the equivalent of $726 today, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad job.
No, that was good for 4,400 words.
We celebrate the 4th of July, the birth of our nation, and the document associated with that is the Declaration of Independence. September 17th, we don't celebrate, but it is the anniversary of the Constitution.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Constitution Day.
I did not know that.
All right. A lot of these things, probably everything that I read to you is from this book. I want to give it away right now.
This is so fascinating.
I just need the phones to light up. If you call me right now, I'll pick one of you at random. 622-9622. Very big book. 888 pages, and it is a reference book. It is a textbook. It is a readable book. You can flip through it. You don't have to read it cover to cover, but that's up to you, and you will enjoy this book if you enjoyed this segment. And it looks like I've got a few on here. Robin, pick a number from 1 through 8. There's 8 people on here. Number 4? All right, you get it right here. Here's number 4 right here. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Oh, thank you. It's Linda.
Linda, you've got the book. It'll be waiting for you.
It's a great birthday present. My birthday is the 3rd of July.
Oh, well, good for you. All right, well, you've got the book. It's The Making of America, and thank you for calling and for listening.
All right, thank you.
All right, that was fun. All right, we will take a break, and we'll be right back. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Larry.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Iraq's new parliament so far unsuccessful in naming a new unity government.